A little bit about me again. I know I introduced myself at the beginning, but my name is Blake. I am the office coordinator here at the Kearney International Center. I started back in October, so I'm still fairly new, still learning. But today I'm here to talk about the work permit process and if you don't have a social security card, how to apply for one. If there's any questions about CPT and OPT at the end, I will try to direct you to the appropriate staff members in the Kearney Center to answer those questions. Those are typically going to be for typically questions for your specific advisor. But what we're going to be talking about today is primarily on-campus employment for the work permit. So again, our office is located in the Centennial Student Union. Our office is CSU 250. We're open Monday to Fridays, 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So this screen here that I have up right now, this is going to be your best friend for any and all information about the work permit and social security process. So I encourage all of you to thoroughly go through this page, which will probably help answer most of the questions that you would have. Otherwise, you can always call, email, or stop into the Kearney Center, and we're more than happy to help you. That's what we're here for. So the very first step that you'll do, as we were talking about earlier, is you need to go out and apply for jobs. And then once you get a job offer, the first step is for you to have your employer go on this webpage here, and they will need to fill out the employment verification form. So I'll show you what that looks like. So this is verification for F1 or J1 student on-campus employment. So your employer will fill out this top part here. It is very important that your employer fills this out completely and accurately. If there's anything missing, such as if the signature is missing or if your student information is entered incorrectly, like your tech ID, that can cause potential issues or slowdowns with the work permit process. So please make sure that you are reminding your employer to take care of this form and to do it carefully. Then basically what will happen is once your employer fills that out, there's a link here right below that verification link, and that will take your employer to this page here. So again, it's very important that your employer enters in all their information correctly and also your student information correctly. So I always encourage students to make sure that they're checking with their employer that this document was submitted. And then you as the employee will get an automated email sent to your mnsu.edu email account, and it will give you instructions for how to upload documents for the work permit. And we ask you some questions to answer in that form. Again, it's very critical, most importantly, that your employer enters your MNSU student email address correctly. If there's even one little thing off on it, they won't see it bounce back because it's in this automated Qualtrics form here. And then you as the student will not get the link to fill out the work permit process. So if that happens, you can reach out to our Kearney International Center, again, by phone, email, or stopping in, and we can get you set up with a new link, but it is a little bit more time consuming and it's just an extra step that slows everything down. So it's very critical that all this information is entered correctly the first time. So once you as the student get that link, there's going to be several things that it asks you to do. For example, we're going to ask you to upload copies of your immigration documents. So your passport, visa, I-20, I-94, travel history, among other materials. A lot of it's listed right here. I'll talk about a little bit later on what you'll do if you're a renewing student. But right now we're talking about if you're brand new to on-campus employment. So just to clarify for on-campus employment, if you are trying to work with Sodexo, Affinity Plus, or any other organizations that aren't technically part of Minnesota State University Mankato, your process will be different than this. So if you have questions about that, feel free to type them in the chat box and I can instruct you what to do for that. But this, what we're talking about today is strictly for if you are trying to get a on-campus MSU position. So once you upload all this information here, if you're a first-time applicant, it's going to ask you for a little bit more than if you're renewing. If you're renewing, the two main things we need are your passport and your current I-20. And then if there's anything else that's outdated that we need, we will let you know on a case-by-case basis. Again, if you're a first-time student and you don't have a social security number, there's a few extra steps that you'll have to do. So right here is going to be a guide to filling out the Social Security application. So this will show you, this is highlighted all of the items that we need you to upload, or sorry, fill out rather, on the form that you'll upload. And then this right here is the current Social Security application, and it has instructions here attached. One key thing to remember, to make sure that you do all these steps in the correct order, because as an international student, you need to have permission or some type of work authorization. So an offer letter or that employment verification form signed by your employer and our Kearney Center staff. You will need that in order to apply for your Social Security card. So what we do as part of the form, once you upload all your information, we do ask you to set up a mandatory 15-minute meeting. Sometimes it takes a little more, but a minimum of a 15-minute appointment with our Kearney Center staff. And that's where we will go over our tax forms if you haven't filled those out yet. And also we will go over the Social Security application to make sure that you filled everything out properly. The main thing to remember on all these documents is that you are double checking everything, triple checking even if needed, and making sure that your name is not only spelled correctly, but in the proper order, and it needs to match what's on your legal immigration documents. So whatever's on your passport and visa is typically what I recommend putting for your Social Security card, because that's going to make sure that everything matches. If you end up applying for your Social Security card and there's mistakes on it, or your name isn't spelled in a different order, that will create several issues, and that could potentially the biggest issue that could potentially cause is you not getting paid. So please make sure that you are asking us any questions during that process and that you're filling everything out completely and accurately. The other thing to keep note of is with our local Social Security office here in Mankato, they are not taking walk-ins for the last couple of years, to my knowledge, since COVID started. So what you need to do, and again, we explain all this as part of the process, and this is in our Qualtrics form, but you will need to give them a call. Just showing you a page here with some of their information. So they're located down in the Mankato Place at the Civic Center. This is their address. And then you might not want to walk right now because it's a little frigid out there, but this is some bus information and driving information for you to get down to their location. Again, these are their office hours here, and they are closed on federal holidays. And what you will need to do is you will need to call them at this 877 number. Again, I recommend that you wait until after you have your appointment with us and you get that signed verification of employment form, as well as that Social Security application checked by our staff before making an appointment. And it does take on average about 7 to 10 days to get in right now for an appointment. So I'm having students recently who are having to wait till early February to get in for an appointment at the Social Security office. And the unfortunate part about that is that means that you cannot start working, excuse me, you cannot start working until you've had that visit. So again, if you don't have a Social Security card, you need to apply for one. And in order for us to get that work permit finalized for you, you don't need your card right away, but you do need to send us a receipt. And we'll talk about that more when you would come in for your mandatory meeting. But one thing to note again is that make sure that you're telling your employer this, if they don't already know, that if they're trying to have you start today or tomorrow after offering you a position and you don't have a Social Security card, that is very unlikely to happen. So it's probably going to take that about a week or so, possibly more, for you to be able to start your employment. I highly recommend that you do this process all the way through before starting work, because there is a possibility that you would not get paid for your work if you are working without our Kearney Center work authorization. So a couple other things I want to go over here. I'll go back to our main page. So once you complete this appointment here, if you have a Social Security card, all you'll have to do is fill out the tax forms. If you've already done the tax forms and the Social Security card, and you're just renewing, then you don't need to schedule this appointment. All you need for a renewal is, again, for you to upload your passport and I-20 into the Qualtrics form after your employer sends that verification over to us. And then the only time you'd have to meet with us is if you have any questions or concerns. And then the other thing that you'll have to do, this is one of the forms that you will upload, is you will have to sign and date this on-campus work agreement. What this is certifying is that you as an international student know that you need to abide by the federal and state laws as far as your employment. So it's very important that you follow these guidelines here. So if you're an undergrad, you are allowed to work up to 20 hours a week. And if you are a graduate, you're allowed to work up to 14 hours a week. There are some exceptions, like for example, if it's summer or winter break, you're allowed to work more. But this is very important that if you have any questions on this, that you reach out to myself or your advisor, your immigration advisor that is, or one of our Kearney Center staff members, because this could affect your SEVIS status. And if it's found out that you are working over your legally allotted time, that is grounds for us terminating your SEVIS status, which could lead to severe immigration concerns and issues. So again, if you have any questions or concerns, it's much better to bring those up ahead of time before you start working, and make sure that you know all of the policies and laws. So on average, it takes us about 3 to 5 business days to process a work permit here. There's lots of factors that can change that time. For example, if you're just renewing and let's say only your passport is expired, if you have proof of your new passport and you send that to us and you already have a social security card and your tax forms are filled out, we can usually get that done within a day or two, depending on how the day goes and how busy it is. However, if you don't have your social security card right now, it's taking that average of 7 to 10 days, mainly because we need to receive that receipt from your social security appointment visit. So you can send that to us same day. You can just scan it and email it, or even just take a picture of it and email it to our international@mnsu.edu email. And we can start working on getting your work permit finalized. And then step 5 here, make sure that you are very frequently checking your MNSU student email, because that is pretty much the only way that we are able to efficiently and quickly get responses out to students. Like for example, at the beginning of the semester, we had about 25, 30 pending work permits right away. And there's just no way that we have the time or resources to call everyone multiple times. So we do send emails. We typically only send one email. If we haven't heard from you in a while, we might send another one, but please, please, please make sure that you're checking your emails early and often. And if you have any questions, or if you haven't heard from us in a couple days, you can always call us or stop in or send another email, and we're happy to help out as best that we can. Last thing that I'll mention before a couple final notes. If you're first time applying for your social security card, all we need to finish that work permit is that receipt from your appointment visit. Once you get your social security card in the mail, it usually takes about 2 to 3 weeks. You will need to bring that card to the campus hub, which is CSU 117 on the first level there. And what you'll need to do is you'll bring it there and just let one of the staff members know at the front desk that you need them to update your student records with your social security number. This is very important because this is used, student payroll uses this to add your social security number to the tax forms that we legally have to submit. So when you're coming in for that first time work permit appointment and you're filling out the tax forms, we will leave that social security field blank until we get your actual number, which will be on average that 2 to 3 weeks from the time of your appointment. A couple other notes here. This bottom part here talks about more of the employment regulations that we already talked about. If you, for some reason, maybe your computer times out or something, and you weren't able to schedule that mandatory appointment in the Qualtrics form, you can click on this link here, and this will show you all the appointment times available. So just a rule of thumb, this isn't quite updated because I had this open before I started this presentation, but you can only schedule your appointment 24 hours in advance. So if you ever have any rushed questions, please call or stop in ahead of time. But out of respect for everyone, because we do have quite a few appointments a day, we just require a 24-hour notice so we can make sure that our staff is prepped and ready for your appointment. Again, I just want to touch on a couple quick reminders, then we'll open it up to questions. Just want to make sure that everyone is aware that you need that Kearney International Center work authorization. We call them yellow sheets. That'll be on a yellow sheet of paper, and that needs to be signed by our office, and it'll have your work permit dates. So once you get that, we'll give you 2 copies. You give one to your new employer so that they can submit your information to student payroll, and then you can keep one for your records. So if you ever get a second job, you can make a copy of that and hand it to them, or if you just want to keep it on file for your records, you can do so. And then last but not least, I just want to stress the importance of communication during this whole process. So, we're human. We make mistakes occasionally, but we do try our best to make sure that we get to everyone very promptly and efficiently. But if you haven't heard from us for a day or two and you submitted your work permit, please call us or stop in or email and ask us for an update. And, we're always here to help, not just work permit questions. We're here for any and all questions that you may have. If I don't know the answer, if our staff doesn't know the answer, I pride myself in being able to find someone who can answer it. We have a lot of very knowledgeable immigration advisors. If you are a new student or a returning student and you don't know who your advisor is, you can reach out to us and we can tell you, or we can assign you to an advisor. Otherwise, if you log into your Mav Connect, there'll be, again, I'm talking specifically about immigration advisor, but you should be assigned an immigration advisor in our office, and you can always come to them or go on Mav Connect and schedule an appointment with them for any and all questions. So that is actually all I had for today.